Has anybody stepped up yet?
Yes. So the first one that I had laid this out to was Pfizer, 18 months ago. We went through the whole thing. They took it up for final approval, and the top management looked at them and said, we're going to do it ourselves, all $50 million. So instead of doing $15 million to be the lead investor, they did 50, and they put the Pfizer incubator in La Jolla. And they're talking about doing 4 or 5 more of these. So that put me back to the drawing board. There's hopefully going to be a lead investor announcement very soon to put the first one of these together. Second thing is, while these are private ones with private investment coming in, these things could very well be public. And they'd be public the same way these special purpose acquisition companies are going public, the SPACs, where you're basically betting on a management team. It's called a blank check company. They give you one done in San Diego for $400 million in sports. And you get a $400 million check, and you've got 2 years to buy a business. And if you buy it, you're already public. You buy it, you get the approval of the investors, you're off and running it. So the same thing can be done here by having the management team go public sort of from day one, saying we're going to exploit this particular part. Here's the risk we're going to take, and here are the returns we think we can get. When you run these numbers, it's very profitable. It's very profitable because you're going to get 7 or 8 that are going to make exits. They won't all make 2, 3, 5 times, but every once in a while you have one that makes 10 times because it happens to be a hot area. So I think that these things are going to be quite profitable, and there's going to be very little fallout. Because even if there is fallout, you're talking $1 million into it, not like most of us, hundreds of millions into it when we have the fallout. Yep.
So I have 2 questions. I mean, why is that any different than, let's say, Titan Pharmaceuticals that you had in San Diego, who did sort of technology, roll in a bunch, have a team, spin out companies, and were able, at least at that point in time, to go public initially, which I still think you have a hard time doing.
Yeah.
And then the second one is, even if you put in $3 or $5 million at that point in time, the valuation on your next round may still only be $3 or $5 million in reality.
The valuation on your next round,
to move it out.
Yeah.
And how do you fight that if
yeah.
you're looking for any X return?
Yeah. So the first part of it is the structure of these, I think, is very important. There are lots of ideas floating around out there, early stage capital and so on. The difference here is you really have this serious management team who's in an area where they can exploit early stage things. They can be first movers. And instead of doing one with one team, which costs the same amount of money if you put the full team together, you're starting from the beginning to say, we're never going beyond here. Now, in terms of the exits, my experience is, my own company, I could have easily sold it to J&J when we did our first deal. The problem was, we had 100 people already. If I had 10 people, we'd have made that sale. But I was stuck that we got all these people, we're going to, we got other products in the pipeline and so on. The mentality that we have when you're running a company that you're trying to build in the Amgen model is so different than when you're running something here. And in terms of finding people to buy these things, and I've talked to a dozen pharmaceutical companies here, and they all really get it. And they get it because they know, they say the following to me, Duane, we see this same stuff. We see it. We're not naive. We got people, scouts all over the place. The problem is we got no place to take it. We're in New Jersey. The scientist is in San Diego. We need them. And nobody to love it, to get it through our system. And believe it or not, we don't even have a budget because the budget's fully consumed. But if somebody just spent that $2 million to get the answer, we could get 20 out of it like that because that's the way our system is set up. We'll pay if you take the risk down. But if there's an identifiable risk that is so obvious, and these almost all have one of those, and you solve that one, we can deal with the rest of the stuff. So that's the concept here, that you've got 7, 8 of these things cycling through simultaneously, and you're constantly bringing things in and taking things out. But the numbers we've run says that you do quite well. You make your first exits 3 or 4 years after start, and you recycle the money through that. The pharma companies will sit, and the bio companies that are in this will sit on the board, and the board meaning the investment committee board. So they'll get to see everything. So the other advantage to them is not everything we bring them is going to be funded. So they get to see everything. And something that the full group doesn't particularly want to invest in, they may have a particular passion for, and they get to pick it up. So it's another set of eyes and ears that would be there. Yes?
Would your SBIR and that kind of funding fit into that model, or do they?
You can certainly do that, and the idea is you have one person writing SBIR grants.
Can you have that?
Yeah. Guys, it's like venture capital was in the early days. It was a hobby. And so the people who played those roles in the early days of the biotech and high-tech world were people who made their money somewhere else and really got fascinated by it, and they played that management role. They had the experience. It was done. But then it became a business. And, most people I talk to today will tell you the venture model is broken. It is badly broken, and they don't know how to fix it. This model says the venture model that exists today can stay, but they may be the buyer. If they look at this and say, look, this is a company, or I'm going to pick it up at phase 1 and do the phase 2B, I'll put $40 million in it, and if it works, I think it's worth $300 million. They can do that. But the AMVAC has a discipline that says, no, we don't raise that kind of money. We only put this $3 to $5 million. If it doesn't fit in that box, we're probably not going to do it.
How much money does Connect spend annually on an EIR program?
Zero. All the EIRs are volunteers and the domain experts, so we get a steady stream of people that cycle in and cycle out. Our budget at Connect is $3 million a year. We have 250 or 220-ish members, and about 15 staff.
Back on this model, have you run this by your local economic development government type people? How do they feel when you say all the jobs are going to be out at the research institute?
Well, I was chair of EDC for 2 years when we started to make this change to innovation, and they clearly understand. San Diego is going to play in those first 2 boxes. We're not going to play in box number 3 because it's just too expensive and we can't get the right kind of people, and we have nothing in box number 4. So they understand that, but the thing I think that was most stunning to them is nobody was tracking the research employment, and all of a sudden it's just exploded. That's where the jobs are.
The art people here traditionally don't think of the universities
Economic.
that way. They don't think
Well,
of that way.
we are, because it's where an awful lot of $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 people are that are making our economy churn.
Can you just expand on what Pfizer did?
So Pfizer we called this originally an accelerator, and the concept was pretty much the same. So Pfizer bought into it early, and they went through 2 formal reviews in New York. And on the second review, I got these frantic phone calls from 2 people I had worked the deal up with. And they told me, we don't know how to tell you this, but they just decided to do the whole $50 million and call it the Pfizer incubator. They don't want partners. Now, the problem with the model, and the reason I can't get many people to go to it, is it's a captive model. So their advisors all tell him, if you go into the Pfizer incubator and Pfizer doesn't pick it up, damaged goods. I don't care what they say. It just didn't fit or what. Baloney. Nobody's going to pick that up. So I warned them that was likely to happen. So the next 2 farmers I'm working with get it, and they understand that they can't do a captive. They thought about it, but if they do a captive, the people won't come there. See, the alignment here, everybody gets aligned. The research institutions align because there's no dilution. It's cash. They get 10% equity. When you sell it for $20 million, that's $2 million in their pocket, and the inventor gets $1 million, whatever. The second group that's aligned is management, because they need to bring things in and make exits to make their financial incentives. The third group are the investors, because they want to pick things up out of here. And even if they don't get them, they get a nice ROI. So everybody gets aligned. There's no inherent conflicts like there are in so many other types of deals.
Well, you need money, and you need the big companies to finance. So how far up the chain can you put labels on things? We've got a company, ConocoPhillips is coming in to take over the storage tech site up there, and yet you're saying you don't like captive incubators or parks or whatever. So has Pfizer's been successful?
Not yet. I mean, it's got a couple things in that came out of Scripps because they have the relationship with Scripps, but I think it's not getting the kind of flow that they thought it might. And the reason is over and over again
What would have been a better strategy for Pfizer?
to be a 15 million of the 50 we're raising. Be the lead investor in this and realize that your only advantage is that you're aware of it. Instead of doing the 3-week rain dance when somebody gets something ready to license, you've been looking at this thing for 6 months. And you can make a decision to be preemptive. You just give management a bid. It's anonymous. The people around the table that you share it with don't know that it's you bidding.
Because you've already said they don't play well together in the other models either.
Well, here they will, because we've worked out ways to do it. A couple things, just real quick. We have a put and call. If Pfizer is in the incubator or in the accelerator and brings me an idea and it gets voted in, they get a call on the other end. 90 days to negotiate once management says it's ready to go. So that put call allows them to bring things to us that doesn't do that. But the second thing that happens in this environment is you create a situation where there's anonymous. Everything is anonymous. And management comes forward and said, here's the bid. It's a tier 1, whatever, 20 million cash. You got 10 days to counter or it's going here. So we've figured out how to do it to keep everybody honest. And management, if they do that and they don't get the 20 million, they got to come back with it. They can't get 19 million and change. They got to get 20 million cash or the deal gets re-opened up. So we've worked on all the potential conflicts, and I've talked through just about every possible scenario having worked with them. By the way, there will only be 2 pharma biotypes in here. The rest are different kinds of investors. Real estate companies who are in the technology space and are interested in seeing more companies and more ideas being funded. The university, the pension funds, all should be investing in this. So that's how you put the group together so you don't have so many conflicts. So most of their representation is non-conflicted. They're simply going to vote for things they think are interesting and not have too many pharmas or bios in there. Yes?
2 things. First, other than the fact that you said that, put this together, there's going to be not much dilution from the university side. Are there any other changes from the university side, particularly as it relates to tech transfers? That's
Well,
the first one. And the second one, how does the real estate or any of those other guys do due diligence on the deal?
All right, so let's deal with the first one. From the academic side, every single one of them loves this. They call me constantly, Duane, what do you got? Because the inventors are 2 types, young, new, and don't want to leave to start a company, or mature and have started a lot of them and know how hard it is, and they just want to pass the stuff over and have somebody take it and run with it. Management is their big deal. They can raise money, but they don't have management.
But it doesn't change their deal.
No. So you negotiate that arm's length. What's the royalty rate? I mean, you're negotiating because you know you're going to sell it, so you're early, and you're saying, hey, look, the royalty rates can't be prohibitive, and we can't have clauses in here about best practices, and you will commercialize. Otherwise, we'll never be able to get the pharma guys to sign off. So here's a template that we need on the deal. But the negotiation about equity, about fees, about hiring the principal as a consultant, all that's done as it's done today. It's just you're a lot earlier, and they don't have many other options. And so they see this as a win-win. The way it works today, you got to do the A round, the B round, the C round, and maybe go public someday, and maybe 10 or 15 years from now, there's some liquidity to the stock that they own. But it's not very, promising. And most of them, when they hear this presentation, get it right away. They just, they've been through that meat grinder before that gets there. The second question, so the way that most of those guys work is they will appoint someone that they think knows what's going on, and they'll be that investment committee member. So they won't personally do it, but they'll have somebody in their portfolio that will do it.
Do you actually see med device fitting in here very well?
Same
Because most
thing.
of the small, but they don't need anywhere near the same level of investment that.
Yeah.
And you can prove it out without doing.
Yeah.
Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 5.
So the risk in high tech, which is new to me because I've only been doing this in software, is a different risk, and it's sort of like the med tech risk. Their risk doesn't happen as early in this bet the ranch. Their bet the ranch is when you go to market. They never have enough capital to really market the product.
Right.
So that's where I see all the failures there, in the high tech especially. And those guys, the high tech guys taught me a ton. They come in and they present us with an idea, and they tell us how much money it's going to cost, and that they're going to do it virtual, and then they'll tell you the 5 people are going to buy them. They know these are the 5 people that we're going to sell to, because they know they cannot go out into the marketplace with $5 million in marketing and think they're going to be successful. So I think the med device and diagnostic companies, the same thing is really going to happen. The big consolidators eventually are going to have most of this. I mean, Steve Burrell will argue that no other industry on earth has the biggest players with less than 5% market share, and that we cannot continue to do this. And if you sort of look at what's happening, MedImmune and, everybody's getting rolled up sooner or later. Biogen, IDEC was, can't sustain. At some point, you hit the wall where you just can't sustain. So you have to become either a delivery company. Yahoo is a great example. I use it all the time. Where's Yahoo in this? They're a delivery company, man. They're buying 2 companies a week. 2 companies a week. Qualcomm, it's in the second circle. It's an AMVAC. Just new technology, invent things, and they license everything out on a royalty arrangement. They just happen to be huge. So, anyway, thanks. I'll hang around for a little bit.
Second, you got